Electricity company announces a 2-week power outage. We'll tell you why.
Also tonight, anti-LGBTQI bill moved one step closer to law after Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee recommends its passage.
Later in the bulletin tonight, demise of Kumewu MP ignites discourse for change in constitution to allow affected political parties to retain their seats.
In business news, Zenith Bank Ghana says it is well capitalized and liquid despite losses incurred from the debt exchange program.
And elsewhere on the international front, leading Senegalese opposition leader Ousmane Sonko found guilty of libel. We've got details of all these stories plus many more coming up in the next 60 minutes. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook. We're also live on your DSTV channel 279. You can join us with the views, comments and suggestions on any of our top stories this hour. Visit any of our social media pages on Facebook and on Twitter. Post a comment and we promise to share them with the rest of the world.
We begin from Parliament, where the anti-LGBTQI bill has moved one step closer to law after the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee recommended its passage. Judith Awatritando has more.
It was all quiet on the promotion of the proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian family values bill until U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris came into town this week.
A great deal of work in my career has been to address human rights issues, equality issues across the board, including as it relates to the LGBT community. And I feel very strongly about the importance of supporting the freedom and supporting and fighting for equality among all people.
That comment and the response by the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, that suggested the bill had been watered down has since triggered a reaction from Speaker of Parliament, Alban Babin.
The bill will be passed. This is the word to His Excellency the President. There is no way he can intervene. That answer he gave. That is now before Parliament. And when he gets to a stage that he will come in. Hey, please. This is legislation. This is not execution.
And now, after the Speaker dared the legal committee to not be afraid and present its recommendation on the draft bill, they have acted. At a review of the draft bill, the legal committee has recommended some changes to the bill in an 18-page document that is now due for consideration by the entire floor of the House. The bill will punish teaching or inducing a child into sexual acts other than what it calls the binary category of male or female, or anyone who evokes the interests of the child in an activity prohibited under the Act to not less than 6 years in prison and not more than 10 years in prison. The name of the bill has changed from Promotion of Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values to Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill. Ranking member on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, Bernard Ahiafo, says the committee is determined to see through the passage of the bill.
We are looking at the bill in that context, taking into account our culture, practices, our religious practices as enshrined in the 1992 Constitution. So I assure everybody that we'll make sure the bill will come into law in a manner such that it will achieve its purpose and at the same time will not trample upon anybody's right.
It remains to be seen how much of external pressure that the country can resist, though. Already, President Akufo-Addo's non-committal response on the subject during the press conference with the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has drawn criticism from the backers of the bill. President of the Catholic Bishops' Conference, Most Reverend Matthew Jemfi, is quoted by the Catholic Trends website as saying the president should have been more upfront in that briefing. He said, quote, "We expect our president to have spoken more boldly to say what the people of Ghana at least have said up till now," unquote. Those vehemently opposed to the bill will disagree. It leaves President Akufo-Addo since the intense, often divisive debate on the bill began. Judith Awachitando, TV3 News.
Let's now speak to the ranking member of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee and MP for Akachi South, Bernard Ahiafo, who joins us via Zoom. Thank you so much for your time, Honorable. Are you and your members happy with what the committee has come up with so far?
Well, let me use the opportunity to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity and say a very good evening to your cherished viewers and listeners, not forgetting the people of Akachi South constituency. In fact, the committee has done its work. The report of the committee is ready. It's been laid on the floor of Parliament. It is now left to the Business Committee to program the second reading of the bill, and surely it will be passed into law. I must state that Parliament is unanimous. Both sides have agreed in a way that this is a bill that must be passed into law. And I look forward to seeing that the bill is actually passed into law.
What informed the changes we are seeing in the bill now?
Well, the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs is made up of eminent lawyers, very senior ones for that matter. So in passing a bill into law, we look at the existing laws of the country, and we also look at the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. And since this is a bill that in a way borders on fundamental human rights, Article 12 and Chapter 12 of the 1992 Constitution was dedicated to fundamental human rights. So we look at the provisions in the Constitution and ensure that no provisions in the bill is contrary to the provisions in the 1992 Constitution, because as lawyers we know that if Parliament passes a law which is in contravention with the Constitution, to the extent of its inconsistency or contravention, it is null and void. So the committee members wouldn't want to pass any law which will contradict the provisions of the Constitution and the existing laws. For that matter, we look at the Criminal and Other Offences Act, particularly Section 104, realize that it proscribes unnatural carnal knowledge, and there is a punishment for the unnatural carnal knowledge. Now we try to realign the punishment in the Criminal and Other Offences Act together with the punishment in the Anti-LGBTQ Bill, so that we don't put the prosecutors into an election, such that the prosecutor who doesn't like your face will prosecute you under a Criminal and Other Offences Act if the punishment in the Criminal and Other Offences Act is higher than that of the Anti-LGBTQ bill, which will be passed into law, and vice versa. So we need to realign the punishment regime. We also have to look at the subjective view in the bill and make sure that we remove every subjectivity in the bill. We must also try as much as possible to make sure that there is no ambiguity in the bill. We also look at Article 108 of the 1992 Constitution, which states clearly that a private member cannot bring a bill that will have a financial implication. And the aspect of the bill that has financial implication, we ask that those aspects be deleted. And these and many more are the proposed amendment by the committee to the bill.
We've seen different reactions to that of Uganda. How would you describe what Ghana has now? Some are saying it's tough and a rigorous one. How would you describe it?
Well, I understand the Uganda bill initially was passed and they've taken the matter up at the Supreme Court, which shut it down in the sense that they couldn't have the required number to pass the bill into law, just like what happened in the case of Justice Abdullahi versus the Attorney General. And we are going to ensure that such a thing doesn't happen in Parliament of Ghana. We have the required number to pass this particular bill into law. And we have ensured as a committee that no provision in the anti-LGBTQ bill, taking into consideration the proposed amendment to the bill by the committee, will be repugnant with the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana or any other existing law. For that matter, we'll pass the bill without any problem at the Supreme Court in any manner whatsoever.
Thank you so much for your time. And I've been speaking to the ranking member of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee and MP for Akachi South, Honorable Bernard Ahiafo.
Thank you for having me.
Right, Portia. Let's do some other trending news story. And just today, the electricity company of Ghana is expected to release a power outage timetable to guide consumers as gas supply to some power plants is going to be affected for the next 14 days. This is due to a shutdown of the Outage gas processing plant in the western region, which is expected to ensure efficiency of the gas processing plant. My colleague Martin Esiedudate has more.
Electricity consumers in Ghana may have to brace themselves for another 2 weeks of power outage because the Outage gas processing plant from which we get gas to produce power is going to be shut down for maintenance works, and that will last for at least 2 weeks. The Energy Ministry in a statement says that in the immediate term, they are looking at importing gas from Nigeria to feed these power producing institutions. But ECG and Gridco, that is the distributor and the transmitter of power in the country, have also released a joint statement confirming the fact that the lack of supply of gas is going to have an adverse impact on power consumption in the country. In the meantime, still in the power sector though, ECG is still undergoing its revenue mobilization exercise. So if you're not getting power, there is a likelihood it might be because of the lack of gas, or probably because you owe and ECG have taken your power.
A reminder to watching News 360, our major news bulletin for the day. I'm sure you've got some thoughts to share on this latest story of possible light out. Let's know what you make of it. Send us a comment on Facebook, on Twitter, and we'll promise to share them with the rest of the world. Now, to some other news coming in, unless Portia, you've got something to say?
In more news tonight, the unfortunate demise of Kumewu MP Philip Baswa has turned the spotlight on by-elections, with some advocating for a change in the constitutional provision to allow political parties who lose seat in parliament to avoid by-elections and simply retain the seats. Eric Mawina Edbeta explores the arguments on both sides of the debate.
By-elections tend to be acrimonious affairs and often expensive ventures too. But there is also a bigger concern, according to former New Patriotic Party campaign chair Peter McMahon.
So that the acrimony, the costs, etc., associated with by-elections will be a thing of the past.
There are those convinced that by-elections, no matter how spaced their occurrence, have tended to be disruptive for the democratic process, including the former NPP campaign chair.
So we are saying that when a person dies, or for whatever reasons, resignation, the party that brought him into parliament during the general election must be given the opportunity, like the United States does, to replace him.
The last of such elections remains fresh on the minds of Ghanaians after national security operatives visited chaos on residents at Ayawaso West Wogon. That perhaps, and the many other violence-ridden ones like Itiwa and Talenti, prompted this proposal from the 2020 campaign manager of the New Patriotic Party. And he has backers in this position.
It's a call in the right direction. I don't know what is needed. Whether just simply tinkering with the Constitution is enough, or we have to go and touch our electoral system. I think there are many who have called for some changes to our electoral system.
The Constitution, according to Article 112, Clause 5, spells out in detail the clerk to Parliament shall notify the Electoral Commission in writing within 7 days after the vacancy occurred, and a by-election shall be held within 30 days after the vacancy occurred. That election, however, according to Clause 6 of the same provision, says that elections shall not be held within 3 months before the holding of a general election. The proposal, according to Professor Ransford Jampo, however, is untenable.
Political parties have no business to be asked to handpick people to go represent their interest on the floor of Parliament should a member of Parliament, die or resign. The requirement in representative democracy is that it is the constituents who have that power, not political parties. So he seemed to be talking about cost.
By-elections, meanwhile, have proven an efficient means to which constituencies witness fast-paced development, from the construction of roads to the fixing of street lights. Perhaps the conversation would need the buy-in of ordinary Ghanaians.
Let's return to our earlier top story about the shutdown of the Ghana gas processing plant in Ituabo. We're told that has to be done for the purposes of maintenance, and this is likely to impact on power supply to major communities and cities across the country. Let me go live on Zoom now to speak to Ben Boachi, who's Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP. Ben, it's always a delight seeing you on Zoom, and I hope you're doing good.
Hi, good evening, Progressy.
Great, Ben. It's good to have you on News 360. And so we're just seeing the statements coming in from the, it's the Communications Directorate of the Ghana Gas Company, and it's essentially telling us about the shutdown of the gas processing plant in Ituabo for maintenance works. I'm sure you've been reading the statement yourself. Was this expected at this time?
Yes, I think maintenance for every mechanical system, you have to maintain it periodically. And Ghana Gas would have its own schedule on how to do major maintenance and when to do minor maintenance, which may require a shutdown of the plant. So it's not anything unexpected. They should have expected that they were going to shut down and plan adequately for it. And I think it's been recurrent. Anytime they have a maintenance shutdown, we have to shed load to be able to accommodate the shutdown. It clearly tells you that there is some room for improvement in planning our power system. Right from the times when we exited generation shortage, fuel supply periodically becomes an issue because we are not planning well enough to be able to offset some of these challenges. Interestingly, we have a power system that should be able to address these kinds of problems. For example, we have dual fuel plants in Abuaze that can take, light crude oil if you don't have gas to run them. The fundamental question is, where are they? Where are those plants? And why are there not enough crude oil to be able to turn those turbines on to forestall, this load shedding that is being imposed on the consumer? And it's almost as if, on a permanent basis, a consumer that need not care about when a power plant will go on or off is always being informed about how gas system works, how the power generation system works, how the transmission system works. But that is none of the business of the consumer. All the consumer wants is a stable supply of power, and let them focus on doing what they do best, support the economy. The media is supposed to focus on doing its media work. Those printing need to focus on doing their printing. Those doing hotel business should focus on their hotel business. They shouldn't add power system challenges to their problems. But that is what we have said.
Right, and so this maintenance work, as we've been told, is going to take a period of 14 days. That's 2 weeks. Now, beyond just normal consumers, how much of an impact is this likely to have?
I mean, certainly it will have impact on businesses. I haven't been privy to how the segmentation of the load shedding is going to be like. I hope it doesn't affect big industries that need not shut down, or it may cost significant cost to them if they shut down and restart their businesses. There are some production processes, when you restart, you lose so much money. And I hope that they will be able to segment those and keep them on the grid. There's going to be economic loss, which we are always not able to estimate. So we freely shut the power when we want to, even when we can expect these shutdowns to happen. So it's certainly going to have a toll on the economy and some businesses as well. And the worst part is that if you have take or pay agreement with a power producer, what it means is that even though they're not going to generate power, we are still going to have to pay them for it.
Ben, always a delight speaking to you. Benjamin Bocek is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP.
Let's go back to Parliament, where the 3 revenue amendment bills currently before the House have generated a lot of debate. Our parliamentary correspondent, Komla Kluche, joins us via Zoom to talk more about this issue. Thank you so much for your time, Komla Kluche. We'll cross over to Komla Kluche shortly. It's about the 3 revenue bills currently before the House, and Komla Kluche will join us from Parliament to tell us the latest development with regards to this particular issue. But earlier we saw the information minister urging the minority in the House to help pass this bill because it was crucial, especially to Ghana's IMF program.
We've been building up to this particular day. We've spoken to industry who are really against it, especially for the fiscal stabilization levy, which has now become the growth and sustainability levy, and it's going to be expanded to, include players in the oil and gas industry. There's also the tax on sweetened beverages. And we know manufacturers are also not excited about this. And quite apart from them, the minority in Parliament is also against this. Mind you, the government has said that this is such a major tax revenue bill that needs to be passed for us to get an IMF program.
Interestingly, we had people picketed in Parliament today in support of this bill.
I see.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Mitchell will join us to give us more. But what do you think about this? Get interactive with us. Facebook.com/TV3 Ghana, Twitter.com/TV3 Ghana.
Absolutely. Keep those comments coming in. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook. We're also live on your DSTV channel 279. Portia, I'm told Kamala has just joined us live on the Zoom.
Yes, and we go back to Parliament, where the 3 revenue amendment bills currently before the House has generated lots of debate, and Komla Kluche is now ready and joins me on Zoom. Komla, tell us the update with the 3 revenue bills.
Well, apart from the fact that the minority had a meeting the caucus meeting today to discuss a position on the matter, which from our sources we pick up is not a shift from the original position they have held, that they are averse to the 3 bills, and for them, they're going to do everything there is to reject the bills, because they believe strongly that even if these bills are not passed, it's impossible for government to say that the country will grind to a halt. Of course, there are a lot of leakages, there are a lot of other avenues that they'll be able to get money from beyond this. I mean, if you look at it, the argument they make is that this is just 4 billion that they are looking for. They could get more from other sources. They are not going to suggest to them because, of course, people have made the point. But the Tamale Central MP, Murtala Mohammed, has been speaking to me on what exactly their official stance is coming out of what transpired last week, Friday.
You had a meeting this morning as a caucus. What's the position of the minority on the revenue bills?
Well, I thought the media already indicated yesterday what the position of the minority is with regards to those taxes. I mean, and I'm just going to reiterate same. We think that it is unacceptable to burden the already burdened Ghanaian with such taxes, and in any case, there is no any reason why government would want to burden the people of this country with, more taxes. These taxes they have nothing to do with the IMF, arrangement, and that is the story that have been, peddled out there. So we are very convinced.
Kamla, interestingly, we had some Ghanaians picketing in Parliament today in support of these bills. What reasons are they given?
Well, these are individuals who believe that these taxes would be able to cushion them. The argument that they make is the fact that, one, a lot of young people are going into drugs are going into the drinking of alcohol and all that's harmful to their health. But this bills, when passed, it becomes a tax. It imposes some further hardship on these individuals to the extent that because the taxes would be high, they wouldn't be able to consume this. And so, for that matter, they should both houses or both sides of the house should come together to pass the bills tomorrow. But in terms of the numbers, maybe shortly we'll listen to them. But the numbers that we have as we speak now is that the numbers are almost evenly quite equal. The NDC has 136. As of this evening when we checked, they were all in, 136 of them. The MPP has 137 because Adjustable joined the House today. That's inclusive of the independent member who chooses to do business with the MPP. If it's anything to go by, if Adjustable comes into the House tomorrow, then it means that the bill may have to go to the stand where possibly the majority will have to have it. But as we speak, there's no indication whether Adjustable may be in the House tomorrow because she's on it.
Thank you so much for your time, Komla Kluche. Meanwhile, the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has charged Parliament to act right by speeding the passage of the 3 revenue bills.
Parliament, in the national interest, will pass these bills before the close of the week, and it will not be seen as disloyalty to any one party. So if I may be permitted to use the word, fellow Ghanaians, we are a blessed nation indeed that has fallen into this temporary trough, and I'm more convinced now than ever that we are a blessed nation. A week ago, I was in China to meet their finance minister and various institutions about their support for our IMF program, and the Lord certainly went ahead of us. China is a big country. The Minister of Finance is a big man. But the Minister of Finance of China gave us, the Ghana delegation, almost an hour and a half of his time. And not only did he do that, but he also called the chairman of the Exim Bank of China to join him to talk through ways in which they can support, facilitate us to make sure we get our IMF transaction. So indeed, America is ready for us. We saw Kamala Harris here. Germany has been here. The finance minister has been. The Europeans are behind us. The fund is behind us. It's left of our own parliament. It can't be that we'll shoot ourselves in the foot. So let us rally behind our parliamentarians and encourage them that before they rise today, tomorrow, these bills will be passed for our own good.
Let's drift a bit away from Parliament now and go straight to Legon, where the management of the University of Ghana has described as misleading claims by some members of Parliament that the institution has disregarded a court order asking it to halt its new residential policy. Well, in a statement, the university indicates that the new residential policy was implemented even before the order of injunction, and that allocation of rooms to fresh students assigned to the Commonwealth Hall ceased immediately the court injunction set in.
The University of Ghana was directed by an Accra High Court to halt a new residential policy which removed continuing male students of the Commonwealth and Mensa Saba halls. Through its lawyers, the school appealed the court's directive, but affected students and some alumni of the halls are not satisfied with the school's posture. A former resident of the Commonwealth Hall and MP for Bilsa South, Clement Apak, on Wednesday told Parliament the refusal of the university to comply with the court's directive is unacceptable and illegal.
The management of the University of Ghana have refused to act in accordance with the dictates of the order. The police and other allied security personnel have been employed by the management of the University of Ghana to frustrate the efforts being made by the students to call attention to the management of the university to obey the order of the court and to reinstate them.
But the university has faulted some assertions the lawmaker made. According to management, no court directive has been violated, adding that the new residential policy was implemented even before the order of injunction. Meanwhile, First Deputy Speaker of Parliament Joseph Osei-Owusu has tasked the Education Committee of Parliament to investigate the matter.
The Committee of Education
Right, Termina, you're still watching News 360. This is our major news bulletin for the day. We're going to go for a quick break. When we return, we've got the very latest in the world of business. Welcome back to News 360. Let me just take you to the world of business now. And despite the negative impact of the domestic debt exchange program on the banking industry, Zenith Bank Ghana remains one of the well-capitalized banks. The bank's parent company in Nigeria has recently announced it has set aside over $250 million in part to cater for impaired losses that may arise from the debt exchange. Well, 3 Business earlier reported the funds were set aside for recapitalization. But our further checks show the bank is solid. So we called up Dr. Abwaji Deborah, who's our in-house financial consultant, and asked him what it means to set aside funds for impairment losses.
About impairment charges, it's like a normal operating expenses that we make towards our books during the financial reporting period. Now, basically what banks, it's just like a normal loan when the loan is not on schedule. So the reporting period, you try to make some provisioning to the asset book. Now, basically the debt exchange program is a similar thing. When the repayment was due or rescheduled, it means that the entire asset book needs to be provisioned. Now, most banks have provisioned or have impaired their loan book or asset book. Basically, this is a bond. And that's what basically Zenith did. But the beauty is that out of this expense, their risk cost, which went up by from 1.9% to about 3.2%, even though it doubled, notwithstanding, Zenith Bank capital adequacy is above regulatory minimum capital adequacy, which is 10%. And that is the beauty of the whole entire Zenith picture. So when you say Zenith Bank have revamped because of the debt issue, it gives a wrong picture if you don't explain what the concept is about. So basically what they have done is that they have cleaned their book, they have repositioned the balance sheet, and it's healthy, it's solvent. When we say solvent, it means that it's well capitalized, so there's no cause for alarm for customers, and therefore they are liquid and they are.
In other news tonight, ratings agency Fitch expects loan advancement to businesses and households to fall significantly as the domestic debt exchange weighs in on commercial banks. Now, according to Fitch, Ghana's clients' loan growth will ease from 30.2% in 2022 to 18% in 2023. Now, the international ratings agencies said the high interest rates, high inflation, cedi volatility would stifle economic growth, and therefore banks would likely not give many loans. Already, banks have largely preferred investing in government securities compared to giving loans to businesses as they seek to limit their risk exposure. But the domestic debt exchange has caused the financial sector losses they were running away from. Meanwhile, a senior lecturer with a Gimpa Business School warns that productivity will slow if loans advanced to banks which is already low, drops further. Dr. Ebenezer Anafo said such a situation could undermine the entire process of economic recovery. He spoke on Business Brief a while ago.
The economy is a bank-based economy where it is the banks that provide a large chunk of the private sector funding. So now that businesses will not be able to have or get access to loans from these banks, we expect productivity to slow down, and this will also mean that there will be job losses as well. So unless, to avert these things, unless these businesses, they get alternative sources of funding, peer-to-peer borrowing, like the businesses borrowing among themselves, crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is also another source of raising capital, where it's an online platform where individuals could contribute to this startup or already established SMEs to take advantage of. Apart from trying to get listed on the Ghana Alternative Market that was established in 2013. So we have to find a way of encouraging these medium and small-scale businesses to get listed on it.
Right, that's all for the very latest in the world of business. For more business news stories, you know what to do. Just go to our website. It's www.3news.com.
World Anti-Doping Agency President Witold Banker is on a visit to Ghana for the first time with the aim to trumpet the message of anti-doping among athletes across Africa. Banker highlighted the need to strengthen the network of national anti-doping organizations throughout the continent. He acknowledged the important work being carried out by the Sports Ministry.
You know, always is room for development, so we are here to assist to strengthen the anti-doping system in Ghana. As I said, the main goal, the WADA's visit, my visit here, is not an audit visit. Of course, it's a big positive gesture from our side to really to mark the presence of Ghana in the sporting environment. So, as I mentioned, responding to your first question, the first goal of it is to think how we can promote clean sport, how we can work together, what we can do more.
The 13th African Games, which was originally scheduled to be held in Accra this year, has been postponed to March 2024 to allow for the completion and testing of facilities that would be used during the event. Speaking to the media, the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mustafa Yusuf, reiterated his desire to see athletes perform at the highest level without cheating.
Doping issues are very critical, and also clean sports is now the order of the day, where we have clean, safe sports. And as you are aware, the Games is going to be qualified for Paris, and all the stakeholders have agreed that the Games should be qualified for Paris. And if it has to be that, then we have to comply with all the regulations of WADA.
The multi-sport event will still be called Accra 2023, despite taking place between March 8, 2024 and March 23, 2024. Well, that's the note on which we wrap up the sports here on News360. My name is Ore Kwampofo. You can follow us on social media, 3SportsGH, for some more news updates. Up next on the bulletin is entertainment with Noella.
And on that note, we conclude News360. Came to you live from our studios here at Adesawe in Kanda, Accra. For more stories, do also visit our website. It's www.3news.com. My name is Pa Kwesi Asare.
And I am Portia Gabo. We have Ghana tonight with Alfred Okanse at 10. Have a lovely evening.